5 times this month. That's how many times my wife refused to help with anything that required actual effort or responsibility. And yes, I counted every single one because at some point, you start noticing patterns that slap you in the face. It started with something stupid. The dishwasher broke on a Tuesday morning, and instead of calling a repair guy or even Googling the problem, she just announced she'd deal with it later while scrolling through Instagram. Later never came. 3 days of dirty dishes piled up in the sink while she complained about the smell every time she walked through the kitchen. When I finally fixed it myself after work, she said, "Thanks, babe," without looking up from her phone. Refusal number 1. The car registration was due the next week. Simple task, right? Just go to the DMV, wait in line, pay the fee. But when I mentioned it, she suddenly had a yoga class she couldn't miss. Then it was a lunch with friends. Then a headache. Then her period. By the time I handled it during my lunch break, we were already getting late notices. Refusal number 2. The pattern became crystal clear when our neighbor asked if we could watch their dog for the weekend. Before I could even respond, she jumped in with, "Oh, we're so busy this weekend, sorry." Then spent both Saturday and Sunday binge-watching reality TV shows while eating takeout. When I pointed this out, she said I was being dramatic and that dog sitting is a big responsibility. Apparently, watching someone else's golden retriever sleep on the couch requires more commitment than she could handle. Refusal number 3. By week 2, I was paying attention to everything. The grocery shopping she was too tired for after spending 3 hours at Target buying decorative pillows we didn't need. The parent-teacher conference she forgot about until 30 minutes before, then claimed she had food poisoning. The leaky faucet in the guest bathroom that she noticed every day but never mentioned until I discovered water damage spreading across the floor. Each excuse was delivered with the same tone of innocent helplessness, like these were just unfortunate coincidences rather than deliberate choices. But here's what really got me. She never seemed too tired, too busy, or too sick when it came to her own interests. Book club meetings, shopping trips, spa appointments with her sister. Somehow she never had mysterious ailments or scheduling conflicts for those activities. The breaking point almost came during week 3 when her car started making that grinding noise that means expensive repair bill. Instead of dealing with it, she just started borrowing my truck every day, leaving me to figure out alternative transportation to work. When I suggested she at least call the mechanic for an estimate, she said she didn't want to deal with car guys because they're intimidating and condescending. So I called, made the appointment, dropped off her car, picked it up, and paid the $700 brake job. She thanked me by asking if I could also handle the oil change while it was there. That was refusal number 22, if you're keeping track. The most infuriating part wasn't the work itself. I can fix things, make phone calls, handle paperwork. What got under my skin was the assumption that all of this was automatically my job, while she got to live like a teenager whose parents handle all the adult responsibilities. Every task, every problem, every minor inconvenience somehow became my burden to carry while she preserved her energy for whatever she actually wanted to do. Week 4 brought the really big stuff. Her mother called asking for help moving furniture from the old house to the senior living community. This wasn't a small favor. We're talking about a full weekend of heavy lifting, truck rentals, and dealing with her mom's emotional attachment to every piece of furniture she'd owned for 40 years. When I mentioned we should probably both go help, she immediately started listing reasons why she couldn't. Her back was acting up, she had plans with friends, she didn't want to see her mom cry about leaving the house. All valid concerns, except her back felt fine enough for a 2-hour shopping trip that same afternoon. She canceled her plans when someone more interesting called, and she'd been complaining for months about how her mom needed to downsize. So I spent the entire weekend playing moving company while she stayed home, organizing the closets, which apparently meant trying on old clothes and posting throwback photos on social media. By the time I got home Sunday night, exhausted and sore, she was already in bed watching Netflix. No, thank you. No, how did it go? No acknowledgement that I'd just spent 16 hours handling her family responsibilities while she had a relaxing weekend at home. When I mentioned how tired I was, she suggested I take a bath and get some rest. Like I was the one who needed advice on relaxation. That's when I realized something fundamental had shifted in how I saw our marriage. This wasn't about occasional laziness or different priorities. This was a deliberate pattern of behavior where one person takes responsibility for everything while the other person finds creative ways to avoid contributing to the life we were supposed to be building together. 45 documented refusals in 4 weeks. 45 times she chose her comfort over our shared responsibilities. 45 opportunities for her to step up as an equal partner, and 45 times she decided that wasn't her problem to solve. But here's what she didn't realize. I was keeping score not because I'm petty, but because I was trying to understand if this was the marriage I wanted to spend the rest of my life in. Every refusal wasn't just about the task itself. It was about respect, partnership, and whether she saw me as her husband or her personal problem-solving service. The worst part was how confident she seemed in her position, like she'd figured out the perfect system where all the benefits of adult life came with none of the responsibilities. She got to live in a clean house, drive reliable cars, attend family events, and maintain social relationships, all while someone else handled the work that made those things possible. But patterns work both ways. If she could establish a pattern of refusal, I could establish a pattern of my own. And unlike her excuses, mine would be based on action rather than avoidance. The month was almost over, and I could feel something building inside me. Not anger exactly, but clarity. The kind of clarity that comes when you finally understand the game being played and realize you don't have to keep playing by someone else's rules. Number 46 was coming. I could sense it in how she'd been eyeing the yard work, the way she mentioned her friend's upcoming birthday party that she should probably help plan, the nervous energy she got when real responsibilities started piling up. When it came, I was going to be ready, not with another argument or another attempt to explain why partnerships require actual participation from both partners. This time, I was going to help myself to something she'd been taking for granted, the freedom to choose what problems were worth solving and which ones belonged to someone else. The next week brought the kind of situation that separates real partners from people who just happen to share a mailing address. My dad called Thursday morning with news that my grandfather had been rushed to the hospital with chest pains. Not immediately life-threatening, but serious enough that family needed to be there. I was already grabbing my keys when I told her what happened. Her response? "Oh no, that's terrible. I hope he's okay." Then she went back to scrolling through her phone like I'd just told her about the weather. "I'm driving up there now," I said, waiting for the obvious response. Any normal spouse would either offer to come along or at least ask how they could help. Instead, she looked up with mild irritation. "Today? But I have that cooking class tonight. I already paid for it." Like my grandfather's hospital stay was an inconvenience to her recreational schedule. "It's a cooking class. They'll probably do it again next month." "You don't understand. It's the advanced pasta making one. They only offer it once a quarter." She said this with the seriousness of someone discussing life-saving surgery. I stared at her for a long moment, waiting for her to realize how ridiculous she sounded. When that didn't happen, I just left. Spent the next 12 hours in a hospital waiting room with my family while she learned how to make ravioli from scratch. When I got home after midnight, exhausted and emotionally drained, she was in bed watching YouTube videos about interior design. "How's your grandfather?" she asked without looking away from her screen. "Stable. They're keeping him for observation." I sat down on the edge of the bed, hoping for maybe 5 minutes of normal human conversation about the day. "That's good. Hey, look at this bathroom renovation. Don't you think we should do something like this?" She turned her phone toward me, showing some influencer's $1 million house project. That was refusal 37. Not a direct refusal to help, but a refusal to be emotionally present when your partner needs support. A refusal to prioritize family crisis over pasta-making classes. A refusal to understand that sometimes life requires you to adjust your schedule for things that actually matter. Friday brought a different kind of emergency. The basement started flooding during the rainstorm that hit around noon. Not a burst pipe or anything dramatic, just the sump pump that decided to quit working at the worst possible time. I discovered it when I went downstairs to grab something from storage and found 2 inches of water covering the floor. "We've got a problem down here," I called upstairs. She appeared at the top of the basement steps, took one look at the water, and immediately backed away. "Oh wow, that looks bad. You should probably call someone." "Call someone? It's going to take hours for a plumber to get here, and by then everything down here will be ruined." I was already rolling up my pants, preparing to wade in and start moving boxes to higher ground. "Well, I can't help with that. I'm wearing my good shoes today, and besides, I don't know anything about plumbing. She said this while wearing sneakers and a casual outfit, like she was dressed for a board meeting instead of a lazy Friday at home. I'm not asking you to fix the pump. I'm asking you to help move our stuff so it doesn't get destroyed. But what if there's electrical problems? Water and electricity are dangerous. I could get hurt. She was already backing further away from the stairs, so I spent the next 4 hours dealing with the flood alone. Moved every box, every piece of furniture, every photo album and holiday decoration to safety. Got the water pumped out, cleaned the floor, called the repair guy, and coordinated getting the sump pump fixed. The whole time, she stayed upstairs, occasionally calling down to ask if I needed anything. What I needed was a partner who didn't treat every problem like someone else's responsibility. But what I got was someone who offered to make me a sandwich when I finally came upstairs, soaking wet and covered in basement grime. "You look terrible," she said, like my appearance was somehow surprising given what I'd just been doing. "Maybe you should take a shower before dinner." The weekend brought the annual neighborhood cleanup day. Every year, our street organizes a community effort to pick up litter, trim overgrown bushes, and generally make the area look presentable. It's not mandatory, but it's one of those things that good neighbors do because it benefits everyone. I'd been looking forward to it, honestly. A chance to get outside, contribute to the community, maybe have some normal conversations with people who understood the concept of shared responsibility. When I mentioned it to her, she immediately started shaking her head. "I'm not doing yard work in front of the whole neighborhood. People will see me sweating and looking gross." This from someone who regularly posts gym selfies on social media, apparently unaware that physical effort occasionally makes people perspire. It's community service, not a beauty pageant. Besides, everyone else will be doing the same thing. That's different. I don't want our neighbors to see me like that. What if someone takes pictures for the neighborhood newsletter? The mental gymnastics were impressive. She was worried about looking bad while doing something good, but perfectly comfortable looking selfish by being the only house on the block that didn't participate in community improvement. So I went alone. Spent 6 hours working alongside neighbors who kept asking where my wife was. "She's not feeling well," I found myself saying, because the truth was too embarrassing to admit. That my wife was home binge-watching reality shows because she didn't want to risk looking sweaty in public while contributing to the place where she lives. When I got home, dirty and tired but feeling good about contributing to something bigger than myself, she was excited to show me the online shopping she'd done. "Look what I found for the living room," she said, pulling up pictures of throw pillows that cost more than I'd spent on groceries that week. "That's nice," I said, heading for the shower. "How was your day?" "Really productive. I organized my closet and found some clothes to donate. And I made plans for next weekend with the girls." She was genuinely proud of her accomplishments, completely oblivious to the fact that while I was improving our community, she was planning her next social outing. That night, as I lay in bed thinking about the week, I realized something had changed in how I saw these situations. Each refusal wasn't just disappointing anymore. It was informative, like getting a clear picture of who I was married to and what kind of partnership she thought we had. 47 refusals and counting. But who's keeping track, right? Sunday night after the neighborhood cleanup, I decided it was time to have the conversation I'd been avoiding. Not another argument about a specific task or responsibility, but a real discussion about the pattern that had been building for weeks. She was sprawled on the couch, remote in one hand, phone in the other, perfectly comfortable in her bubble of zero accountability. The perfect moment to pop that bubble. "We need to talk about something," I said, sitting down across from her instead of next to her. Physical distance for what was about to be an uncomfortable conversation. She didn't look up from her phone. "Can it wait? This episode is almost over." "No, it can't wait." "Turn off the TV." Something in my tone must have registered because she actually looked at me. "What's wrong? You seem upset." "I'm not upset. I'm curious about something. Do you realize that you've refused to help with 47 different things this month?" "That's not true. I help with lots of stuff." Still holding the remote, like she was planning to resume her show as soon as this minor interruption ended. "Name 3 things you helped with this week." She opened her mouth, then closed it. Opened it again. "Well, I organized my closet and found things to donate." That's organizing your own stuff. What did you help me with? What did you do that benefited both of us or solved a problem we both faced? This is ridiculous. You're keeping score like we're competitors instead of married people. Maybe because lately it feels like we are competitors. Except you're competing to see how many responsibilities you can avoid, while I'm competing to keep our life from falling apart. She muted the TV, but didn't turn it off. A compromise that wasn't really a compromise. You're being dramatic. I contribute in other ways. Like what? And don't say emotional support, because you spent yesterday shopping online while I dealt with the basement flood. I offered to make you a sandwich. The fact that she said this with complete seriousness told me everything I needed to know about how she viewed her role in our marriage. Sandwich making was her contribution to crisis management. Let me walk you through this week. I continued. Monday, the dishwasher repair guy needed someone here between 9 and noon. You had a nail appointment you couldn't reschedule. Tuesday, your car needed inspection, but you didn't want to deal with the wait at the shop. Wednesday, we needed groceries, but you were too tired after your yoga class. Thursday, my grandfather was in the hospital, but you had pasta making class. Those were all legitimate reasons. Friday, the basement flooded, but you didn't want to get your shoes wet. Saturday, community cleanup day, but you were worried about sweating in front of neighbors. Today, I asked if you wanted to meal prep for the week, but you're busy watching TV. She was getting defensive now, which meant I was getting through to her. You make it sound like I never do anything. Tell me what you did this week that required effort, sacrifice, or putting someone else's needs before your own. Long pause. Longer than it should take to answer that question if the answer existed. I don't have to justify my choices to you. We have different ways of contributing to this relationship. What's your way? Because from where I'm sitting, your way looks like me handling everything while you maintain a lifestyle that would make a teenager jealous. That's not fair. You know I have anxiety about certain things. Mechanical stuff, dealing with repair people, family drama. It stresses me out. And you think it doesn't stress me out? You think I enjoy spending my weekends fixing things and dealing with problems? The difference is I do it anyway because it needs to be done. We each have our strengths. You're better at that stuff than I am. This was her favorite defense, and the one that irritated me most. I'm not better at it because I was born with some magical handyman gene. I'm better at it because I do it. You could learn to deal with repair people if you tried. You could figure out how to schedule appointments and handle paperwork if you wanted to. You choose not to because you know I'll do it instead. So what are you saying? That I should do things I'm not good at just to prove a point. I'm saying that adult life requires handling things you don't particularly enjoy or excel at. And in a partnership, both people take on those responsibilities instead of one person dumping everything on the other. She was quiet for a moment, and I thought maybe I was finally getting through to her. Then she picked up the remote again. I think you're making a bigger deal out of this than it needs to be. Every couple divides tasks differently. Just because we don't do things exactly the same way doesn't mean there's a problem. Dividing tasks would mean you take some and I take others. What we have is me taking tasks and you finding reasons why you can't. That's your perception. I see it differently. How do you see it? I see someone who likes to control things getting upset because I don't do everything exactly the way he would do it. The conversation was going exactly where I knew it would go. When confronted with a pattern of behavior, she didn't deny it or promise to change it. She reframed it as my problem for noticing it. So let me understand your position, I said. When I handle the car repairs, basement floods, family emergencies, neighborhood responsibilities, and general maintenance of our life, that's me being controlling. When you avoid all of those things, that's just your personal style. You're twisting everything I say. I'm repeating what you said. You think I'm controlling because I noticed that you don't contribute to solving problems. And you think your lack of contribution is just a different but equally valid approach to marriage. I contribute in ways that matter to me. And what about ways that matter to us? What about ways that matter to the life we're supposed to be building together? She turned the TV back on. Not loud, but loud enough to signal that she was done with this conversation. I'm not going to sit here and be attacked for not being the person you want me to be. I don't want you to be different. I want you to be present. I want you to participate in the life we share instead of treating it like something that happens around you while you focus on more interesting things. We obviously see this situation very differently, and I don't think we're going to agree. She was right about that. We saw it very differently. She saw a marriage where one person handles practical matters while the other person focuses on personal fulfillment. I saw a marriage where one person takes responsibility for everything while the other person lives like a guest in their own life. The conversation was over, but the understanding was just beginning. She'd made her position crystal clear. This arrangement worked for her, and she had no intention of changing it. My complaints weren't a signal that something needed to be addressed. They were just noise she had to tolerate until I accepted the way things were. But acceptance works both ways. If she could accept living like this, I could accept knowing exactly where I stood. And more importantly, I could accept that the next time she refused to help with something, it wouldn't be a disappointment or a surprise. It would be an opportunity. The opportunity came faster than I expected. Tuesday morning, her sister called in complete panic mode. Their mom had fallen at the senior living facility and broken her hip. Not life-threatening, but she needed surgery and someone had to be there to handle medical decisions, insurance paperwork, and coordinate care. I was getting ready for work when she hung up the phone, looking genuinely distressed for the first time in weeks. My mom broke her hip. She's having surgery this afternoon. Her voice was shaky, the kind of vulnerable tone that usually made me drop everything to help. That's serious. What do you need to do? Someone needs to be at the hospital. They need medical power of attorney signatures, and there's insurance forms, and the doctor wants to talk to family before the surgery. She was pacing now, clearly overwhelmed by the situation. Okay, when do you need to leave? That's the problem. I can't handle this stuff. You know how I get around hospitals and medical situations. All that paperwork and talking to doctors about scary things. I'll just mess it up. I waited for her to continue, but she was looking at me with that expectant expression I'd seen 47 times before. You want me to go instead of you. You're so much better with this kind of thing. You know how to talk to medical people and understand all the insurance stuff. I'll just get confused and say the wrong thing. It's your mother. I know, but you're more qualified to handle the situation. I'll be too emotional to think clearly. There it was. Refusal number 48. Not just any refusal, but the big one. The moment when your spouse's parent needs help and you find a way to make it someone else's responsibility. Let me make sure I understand this correctly. Your mother is having emergency hip surgery, and you want me to take the day off work to handle her medical decisions because you don't feel qualified to deal with your own parent's healthcare crisis. When you put it like that, it sounds bad, but that's not what I mean. How do you mean it? I mean that this is too important to mess up, and you're better at handling these situations than I am. Don't you want what's best for my mom? The manipulation was almost impressive. Turn my competence into an obligation and my love for family into a guilt trip. Make helping her avoid responsibility sound like the caring thing to do. Your sister can't go. She's dealing with her kids. School pickup, soccer practice, all that stuff. She can't just drop everything. But I can drop everything. Your job is more flexible than hers. My job was flexible, but that wasn't the point. The point was that when her mother needed family support during a medical emergency, her first instinct was to find someone else to provide it. What are you going to do while I'm at the hospital dealing with your mother's surgery? I'll stay here in case anyone needs to reach us, and I can call the insurance company if there are any questions. She was already mentally shifting into coordination mode, managing the situation from a safe distance. You could call the insurance company from the hospital, but what if I need to look up information or find documents? It's better if I stay here as backup support. I looked at her for a long moment. Really looked at her. This wasn't anxiety or incompetence. This was a calculated decision to avoid an unpleasant situation by delegating it to someone who wouldn't say no. I'm not going. She blinked. What do you mean? I mean, I'm not taking time off work to handle your mother's medical emergency while you stay home as backup support. If your mom needs family there, then family should go. But I already explained why I can't handle this. And I'm explaining why I won't handle it for you. Her expression shifted from distress to angry. This is my mother we're talking about. How can you be so selfish? Selfish would be expecting my spouse to deal with my parents' medical crisis while I find excuses to stay home. Selfish would be turning a family emergency into someone else's problem because I don't want to deal with uncomfortable situations. You're being ridiculous. This is what married people do. They help each other. You're absolutely right. This is what married people do. They help each other. They don't spend months avoiding every responsibility and then suddenly demand help when something important happens. So you're going to let my mother suffer because you're mad about some stupid household chores? Your mother isn't going to suffer. She's going to have her daughter there supporting her through surgery instead of sending a substitute. She stared at me like I'd started speaking a foreign language. I can't believe you're doing this. When I really need you, this is how you react. When have you really needed me? Because for the past month, Every time I actually needed you, you found a reason why it wasn't your problem. Your grandfather's hospital stay, the basement flood, community cleanup, fixing appliances, dealing with repairs. Where were you when I really needed you? Those things were different. How were they different? They just were. This is my mother. And those were things that affected both of us. Our house, our cars, our family, our community. But somehow they were my responsibility while your problems are our responsibility. She was getting desperate now, trying different angles. Fine. If you won't go for me, then go for her. You care about my mom, right? Don't you want her to have support during surgery? I do care about your mom. That's why I think her daughter should be there instead of hiding at home, because hospitals make her uncomfortable. I'm not hiding. I'm being practical about our different strengths. Your strength is avoiding difficult situations. My strength is handling whatever you avoid. But today, your strength gets to expand into new territory. She was quiet for a minute, probably trying to figure out a new approach. When she spoke again, her tone was different. Colder. If you don't help me with this, I'll remember it. This will change things between us. Things have already changed. This is just the first time you're noticing. What's that supposed to mean? It means that for weeks you've been training me to expect nothing from you when I need help. Today you get to experience what that feels like. I grabbed my keys and headed for the door. Good luck at the hospital. I'm sure you'll figure it out. Where are you going? To work. Like I do every day while you figure out why today's responsibilities aren't your problem. You can't just leave me to deal with this alone. I paused at the door. Welcome to my world. The drive to work was the most peaceful 20 minutes I'd had in weeks. No guilt, no second guessing, no wondering if I was being unreasonable. Just clarity. She would go to the hospital because there was no one else to go. She would handle the paperwork because it needed to be handled. She would talk to doctors and make decisions because her mother needed family support. And she would do all of this competently because despite her claims of incompetence, she was perfectly capable when no other option existed. Today was the day she learned what the rest of us already knew. Sometimes life requires you to do things you'd rather avoid. Sometimes being an adult means stepping up even when it's uncomfortable. And sometimes the person who's been solving everyone else's problems decides to let them solve their own. Number 48 was different from the others. This time, her refusal met my refusal, and only one of us had the option of walking away. When I got home that evening, the house was quiet. She was sitting on the bedroom edge, still in her hospital clothes, looking shaken. When she saw me, her expression hardened. She's fine. The surgery went well. No thanks to you. I'm glad she's okay. How did you handle everything? I handled it because I had to. Because my husband decided that proving a point was more important than supporting his wife. I sat down across from her. How did it feel to be the person who stepped up when someone needed help? She looked at me like I was insane. It felt terrible. I was stressed the entire time. But you did it. Of course I did it. What choice did I have? Exactly. What choice did you have? Don't you dare turn this into some kind of lesson. Your mother needed her daughter, and her daughter showed up. That's how family is supposed to work. She got up and headed for the bathroom. We'll talk about this later. Actually, we won't. The conversation is over. You know where I stand. I know where you stand. Nothing we say will change either position. So you're just going to stop communicating? I'm going to stop trying to convince you that marriage should involve mutual support. Since that's not the marriage you want, I'll take the one where I solve my problems and you solve yours. She stared at me, then slammed the bathroom door. The next few days were different. When the garbage disposal broke, I fixed it without mentioning it. When her car registration came in the mail, I put it on her counter instead of handling it automatically. Friday morning brought the first test. She came into the kitchen frustrated, holding her phone. The dentist needs to reschedule my appointment. They only have work hour slots available. Can you call and see if they have weekend times? No. No what? No, I can't call them. It's your appointment. But you're better at scheduling conflicts. I'm better because I do it. Today you get to practice. This is ridiculous. It's one phone call. You're right. One phone call. You should handle it easily. She walked away muttering. 20 minutes later, I heard her successfully rescheduling for Saturday morning. Turned out she was perfectly capable when no alternative existed. Saturday, she announced book club had an emergency meeting for most of the day. I'm planning to reorganize the garage, I said. Oh, big project. Want me to help when I get back? After months of avoiding everything, she suddenly offered to help with the most tedious job possible. No thanks. I've got it covered. Are you sure? It might go faster with two people. I'm not in a hurry. She left looking confused, unable to figure out why I'd turned down help she'd never intended to provide. The garage project took all day, but gave me exactly what I needed. Physical work, visible progress, satisfaction without negotiating or convincing anyone. When she returned, she walked through appreciatively. This looks amazing. Thanks. It feels good to have everything organized. Your back must hurt. Want me to run you a bath? More offers of help after the work was done. I'm fine. How was book club? Good. We planned a party for next weekend. You should come. Thanks, but I'm going fishing with work guys. Since when do you go fishing? Since I realized I have more free time than I thought. Sunday brought the real test. Her sister called about their mom's insurance refusing to cover $3,000 of hospital costs. Complex paperwork and bureaucratic maze territory. She looked at me with familiar, overwhelmed helplessness. They're saying Mom owes money that should be covered. You know insurance companies. Could you call and straighten this out? No. What do you mean, no? I won't call your mother's insurance company about billing that doesn't involve me. But you understand medical coding and authorization processes. I understand them because I learned them. Today you learn them. This is $3,000. If I mess up, Mom pays money she doesn't owe. Then don't mess up. I can't believe you'll let your mother-in-law get cheated because you're mad at me. I'm not mad. She won't get cheated because her daughter will advocate for her. That's what family does. She spent the next hour making calls, getting transferred, explaining situations, slowly navigating the system. Painful to listen to because she kept apologizing instead of demanding answers. But she figured it out. By day's end, she'd corrected the billing error and saved her mother $3,000. When she hung up, she looked exhausted but oddly satisfied. I can't believe I actually got them to fix it. Why can't you believe it? Because that stuff is so complicated. It's complicated for everyone. The difference is whether you push through confusion or find someone else to do it. That evening, we sat in respective corners, her reading, me planning fishing trips. The house had become peaceful. No underlying tension about unfinished tasks or unequal responsibilities. Just two adults managing their own lives, contributing what they chose, dealing with consequences of their decisions. She was learning what everyone else knew. Competence isn't personality, it's choice. When you stop choosing helplessness, you discover forgotten capabilities. I learned something too. Freedom isn't escaping others' expectations. It's releasing yourself from obligation to solve problems for people perfectly capable of solving them themselves. 3 months later, our marriage looked completely different. Not worse, not better, just honest. She handled her own appointments, car maintenance, family obligations, and paperwork. When problems came up, she solved them instead of looking around for someone else to handle them. Turns out, all those things she wasn't good at became manageable when she didn't have an alternative. The house ran smoother because responsibilities weren't piling up on one person while the other person found creative ways to avoid them. When something needed attention, whoever noticed it dealt with it. Simple system, no negotiations required. Her confidence grew in ways that surprised both of us. The same person who used to claim anxiety about talking to repair technicians successfully negotiated with contractors for a bathroom renovation. The woman who couldn't handle insurance paperwork became her mother's fierce advocate in healthcare disputes. But the biggest change was in how we related to each other. Without the constant undercurrent of resentment from unequal contribution, our conversations became more genuine. She stopped making excuses, and I stopped keeping score. We were both too busy managing our own responsibilities to worry about monitoring each other's efforts. One evening, as she successfully assembled a bookshelf that would have automatically become my job 6 months earlier, I realized something important. I hadn't helped myself to freedom by changing her behavior. I'd helped myself to freedom by changing my own. The woman who used to refuse everything had discovered she was capable of handling anything. The man who used to solve everyone's problems had learned the difference between being helpful and being used. She looked up from the instruction manual, screwdriver in hand, genuinely proud of her progress. This is actually kind of satisfying. Most things are, when you're the one doing them. I'm starting to understand that. We never talked about the 48 refusals or the conversation that changed everything. We didn't need to. The new reality spoke for itself. Two competent adults sharing a life instead of one competent adult managing someone else's life. Some people might call it a miracle that our marriage survived such a fundamental shift in dynamics. But miracles suggest something impossible happened. What actually happened was simple. We both started acting like the adults we'd always been capable of being. The freedom I'd helped myself to wasn't freedom from her. It was freedom from the version of myself that solved problems for people who didn't want to solve them. And her freedom wasn't from responsibility. It was from the helplessness she'd been using to avoid it. 48 refusals had taught me everything I needed to know about partnership. It only works when both people choose to participate. Now we both made that choice every day, and it turned out that was all we'd ever needed.
Our story has come to an end. If you've made it this far, how about subscribing to our channel? It helps us immensely. I've selected 2 other videos for you that I'm sure you'll enjoy. Feel free to click on them. I'll be waiting for you in the next story. See you soon.